because I just knew that I never want to work for anyone else again.
Was it really scary when you started on your own?
Change is scary. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and that's okay, but there's still heaps of opportunity.
What makes you say that? How are you so sure?
In that time, I was like, I need an exit plan. I do not want to go back to how life was before.
Do you have any technical background?
I studied sociology and history at uni. I do not have a technical background.
And you mentioned your shift into creating content.
I wasn't on LinkedIn. I wasn't on TikTok. After I do social media, I'm done. Is everyone that I've ever worked with gonna see this and cringe?
How did you scale?
If you want to scale, this is what you have to do. People aren't gonna magically find you. That's not how it works.
People are either on TikTok or Instagram.
I had the largest mortgage broking aggregate slide into my DMs on Instagram.
People are just inundated. They see end-to-end tutorials with 1,000 nodes, and it's overwhelming.
Just start small. Once you've got that down, start small again. You're like, okay, what next? And go from there.
And it's really tough when you have a full-time job, you have 2 kids, and how do you juggle all of that?
I was #1 caretaker of our kids, so I didn't exactly have heaps of time.
My name's Sabrina Ramanov, and today super excited to be joined by Brooke Wright, who scaled her AI business from 0 to 6 figures in under 12 months. Brooke, it's amazing to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Awesome. I can't wait to dig in. So I want to set the stage for the audience. Where were you end of 2024 in terms of what you were doing with your job, with your income level, and fast forward to end of 2025, where are you at?
Yeah, 2023, 2024, I was in corporate roles, local government, and I also worked at universities, just doing project admin and support. And then we decided to hit the road, go traveling. And in that time, I was like, I need an exit plan. I do not want to go back to how life was before. And that's how I started my business. At the end of 2024, I think I was doing about 3K months. It was growing, but it was by no means supporting us or our family. And then cut to the end of 2025, I hit 6 figures in 6 months. It was exponential growth.
That's amazing. So I know a lot of people in my audience will be very interested in your journey. The most common question I get asked is, how do I make money with AI? And it's really tough when you have a full-time job, you have 2 kids, and how do you juggle all of that? So I'd love for you to just paint a picture of what your life looked like when you decided to make the leap and start this thing. And what did that messiness and chaos look like in the first month or two? And you're just figuring it out and don't know yet if this is going to work.
Yeah. So I always say this, start with trying to figure out your own problems. Is it content creation, whatever, and use AI to help you with that. So that's literally what I did. I've always had, I guess, a side hustle as a way to keep my brain busy. I used to host women's running retreats, which is so niche. And so I was building the website on WordPress, the booking system, the automations for that. So that's how I kind of just exposed myself to all of this. And then I was like, actually, it's that I'm really interested in building those systems, learning how this stuff works. But it involved lots of trying to carve out time wherever I could. Friday nights, that we weren't going out for dinner. I was just on the couch with my husband next to me, watching YouTube, trying to figure out what to do. And then I had make.com open, being okay, now we'll try and build this thing. Yeah.
Did you quit your full-time job before diving in, or was it using the extra time you had on the evenings and weekends to learn this stuff and get familiar with it?
Yeah, so initially I was still working full time, and then we took 12 months off, which ended up extending into 18 months so that we could travel. My husband was still working part-time remotely while we travel. And in that time, I was #1 caretaker of our kids. So I didn't exactly have heaps of time, but that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to start my own thing, because I just knew that I never want to work for anyone else again. So I had to make a plan to be able to do that.
What makes you say that? How are you so sure?
Because I did it for such a long time, and I It just was so underutilized, especially because I was in these corporate roles. If that's not in your job description, or you don't have an amazing manager who can kind of see your potential and give you stuff, you just like stuck. And so, particularly in the university system, because I am not an academic, I could only get so far. I didn't want to do a PhD. So, that was kind of my only option.
Mhm. Was it really scary when you started on your own, or did you end up enjoying the process, following a hobby first and then having it naturally integrate with your hobby?
Yeah, I mean, it's like change is scary, right? And I will say too, like, I'm obviously privileged. Like, we could afford, my husband still had his income. So I had
Mhm.
that kind of flexibility to be able to experiment. I will acknowledge that privilege. But that allowed me to just experiment. Then it just kind of naturally progressed from there. So there was probably about 6 months where I was just like building. I had a couple of clients. And then it was when I started to show up on social media that things just exploded.
Oh, I can't wait to dive into that.
Yeah.
How did you get your first initial clients, and then what made you realize, "Hey, maybe I should start posting on social media?"
So I was still on this job site, which was posting full-time jobs as well as contracting jobs. And there was one that aligned with my previous experience in local government, and they were looking for a contractor. And so I was like, sweet, I'll apply for that. And like built their websites, and they're a not-for-profit. And so I was just like, can I just make this whole thing as efficient as possible for you? Like, wrote Google scripts and all of this. I'm like in ChatGPT, like, here's what I want to happen. Can we make this happen? Like, so they had this process where volunteers would go on their website and they do mediation. So it's like if they're having issues, these lawyers volunteer their time to help these community organizations, but they don't have staff. So I was like, well, let's just automate that whole process, like triage everything. So I was like in chat being like, here's the end goal. We're using Google Sheets. Can we just automate this? And just like figured out how to just automate that whole process. So by the time someone picked up that case, like that whole onboarding has been done. That saved them like 10 hours a week just on that intake process.
And did you have any technical background? Like, this is pretty technical stuff. Like, what made you confident that you could figure it out? Because I see this kind of issue with people. It's like, I don't want to try until I'm ready.
I studied sociology and history at uni. Like, I do not have a technical background, but I am really good at problem solving. And that is what a lot of this is. And whenever I was working with AI to figure this stuff out, I'd always be like asking the model, why are you suggesting this? And that just asking that allowed me to understand what was happening. And then also, if you do get stuck in a loop, you can be like, hey, well, you said this, but we've already tried that. So just being able to untangle it a little bit more rather than you kind of get stuck in the loop because you don't really know what's happened to get you to that point.
Yeah, a lot of people just take the answer at face value and it's like, oh, it didn't work. Now what do we do? Right.
Yeah.
And just like a continuous loop, like, okay, try one thing, it didn't work. Ask why. Let's try it
Yeah.
slightly different variation, or let's get feedback from a different LLM. And in the process, like you end up learning all of this stuff yourself. So like by the time you put in your 50th prompt, you are actually quite a bit more technical with your understanding of how the pieces fit together if you're willing to learn along the way. Because like I think some people will put in a prompt, hope it works, just copy what it's telling you to do, but not take time to try and understand it. And that can be really frustrating because then you're not necessarily learning. And when you get stuck, you don't know what to do next.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you get stuck in a loop, it might be like half an hour down the track that you realize, oh my God, we've just gone around in circles for half an hour. Whereas, like, if you kind of like, why? Why are you suggesting that as the way we should go? You can kind of stop that happening a little bit earlier.
And so in this beginning phase when you're just getting started, there's a lot of marketing material around like buying courses and mastering prompt engineering and like mastering AI automations and also create passive income.
Yes.
What is your thought now looking back on all of that? Did you go down any of those rabbit holes and which ones were high ROI for you, like really were worth it in your journey?
Yeah. So I purchased like an AI course and I learned how to build like custom GPTs and also learned that make.com existed. Like I had no idea that this stuff even existed like a few years ago. So in terms of that, it was actually good to just get that exposure. I genuinely believe with YouTube and AI, you can basically learn whatever you want to now. But you have to create, not consume. There's a difference. If you're just watching YouTube videos, there's so many YouTube videos out there, right? And it's like generate 100 cold leads or whatever. And so what I did was like, okay, that framework works, but I'm going to apply it to like this problem that I have in my business. So as an example, I saw some guy use a custom GPT to pull in his to-do list. This was like before connectors and stuff existed. So he pulled in from Notion his to-do list and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I had this custom GPT built that was like an email marketing assistant for me. And all of my stuff lives in Notion. I want to be able to work collaboratively with chat. And then once I'm happy with that email, just send it over. I don't want to copy and paste. So I learned about actions in custom GPTs and then basically was like, okay, so he can do that, which means in theory, I will be able to do this for this email marketing assistant. So then I just spent a few hours trying to figure it out and got it working. And now you don't have to do that because there's just connectors and some CPs, right?
I think one thing that really stands out hearing you talk about it is how you started with one small problem and then you get that working and then you can grow from there. Like, okay, we got the GPT down. Oh, what's
Yeah.
this thing called actions? I want to make it a little bit better. How do I do that? Because
Yes.
sometimes when people overwhelm themselves, they see N8N tutorials with 1,000 nodes and they start with that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of starting with just something that does one useful thing and building.
Yeah. Like with like 3 nodes, like amazing. Yeah, I feel like the more complex it gets, like the more likely it is to break. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned your shift into creating content, which I definitely want to get into. I'd love to wrap up this part. What are the top 3 things you think people should learn about right now in 2026, especially for someone who's listening, who all of these terms are being thrown at them. They don't know what course to buy or what topic to even start with. They don't know what
Yeah.
any of these words mean. What would be your top 3 recommendations for someone brand new, interested in following your path, but truly have no idea where to start today?
I'd always say to people, just solve something specific in your own business first, and that will allow you to build that thing too. So I have ADHD. I do not look at my calendar every morning. My brain doesn't function like that. So I made in N8N a little automation that just tells me what's on in my day and it pings me in Slack because that notification works for me. Something like that, that's like 2 nodes, I think, or 3 maybe. So start thinking about, okay, what would be one high impact thing? Doesn't have to be big, something that I find really annoying or that I avoid doing, and start there. And then go on YouTube, see if you can find a tutorial, even if it doesn't perfectly match what you're trying to do, but you have to build, like you have to try and use these tools. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just passively consume, like open the tutorial is not a perfect match, search for another tutorial, ask chat, ask Gemini, ask Claude.
And just as you said, like just start small and just do, once you've got that down, start small again. You're like, okay, what next? And go from there.
I love that. Okay, so let's get to the next part. So I know a lot of people will be like, how did you scale though from, let's say, a couple thousand per month, and now you're scaled to 6 figures and probably much more at this point in time. And
Yeah.
so can you talk about what shifted in your strategy to enable that next layer of growth?
So for context, at the end of 2024, I had 158 followers on Instagram. I didn't have a mailing list. I wasn't on LinkedIn. I wasn't on TikTok. So that was when I was doing about 3K a month, just from like connections I'd made, that sort of thing. But it wasn't scalable. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I do want to grow this business. We'd finished kind of traveling, so the kids were back in school. So I was like, okay, I've got this like opportunity now. So I was like, all right, I guess I got to start showing off on socials. I do lots of talking head reels now. And that first one, I remember filming that, just being like, this was so bad. But you just get better at it. And then that first LinkedIn post, I was like, is everyone that I've ever worked with gonna see this and cringe? And it's not like that at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what made you even want to start? Like, was there some kind of motivation or moment or something somebody said to you or a video you watched?
Yeah. No, it wasn't chat. I don't know if you've heard of him, Daniel Priestley. He's like an Australian guy. He lives over in the UK and he has written a book called Key Person of Influence. And it's all about building your personal brand. And so, yeah, I listened to that book. He did a podcast with Diary of a CEO. So then I was like, all right, it was just everything was kind of pointing to like, if you want to scale, this is what you have to do. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And then to actually make that sustainable was when I came across, like, I guess it was your content and Blotato too. Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah. Because I was like, I can't be on social media all the time. And again, my brain, like after I do social media, like I'm done. I don't want to be like
Fried.
reposting it. Like I would just not do it like that. There's no dopamine attached to that activity at all. So, and I think probably I was on YouTube looking for another automation tutorial where, yeah, and that's like potato popped up. I was like, yes, that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanna for me at least, I wanna still enjoy the process of making content, and so I wanna put all my effort into the act of creation and being authentic. I don't want to spend cycles, like, reposting that, reformatting it, repurposing it, like, that's great, but I don't consider that something that like, I want to spend a lot of time doing, and it can be very time consuming when you're on different platforms. So can you recap for today, like, which platforms are you on now? Which ones are you most active
Yep.
on? And also, which one would you say is highest ROI in terms of landing clients?
On Instagram, I think I'm like maybe like 2,600 followers. TikTok, I think I'm like at 3,500 followers. And LinkedIn, I think I've got like 700 connections. And my email list is like just under 1,000
All right.
subscribers now too.
Oh, yeah, so has it been like a year of posting or even less?
I think it was March last year. So it's been just under a year that I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be visible now.
And when you started, could you ever imagine that thousands of people across the world would be following you, asking you for advice, and saying you're amazing?
Not at all. And so it's really interesting too, because I know you asked what would be the highest in ROI platform. Instagram for me, but then also I get good quality leads come from TikTok and LinkedIn as well, which is why it is so valuable to be on all of them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I started, most of my technical network was like, "Why are you posting on TikTok?" Like, that's just strange, but you'd be surprised. Like, people are either on TikTok or Instagram for recreational stuff. They're on
Yes.
LinkedIn where they're, nice, tidied up profile, but like for fun, people are on TikTok or Instagram. Oh,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised, like the types of DMs I get on both platforms.
Yeah. Like I had the largest mortgage broking aggregate slide into my DMs on Instagram. And she was just like, I love your content. Like I manage the communications team. Can we get you in to train the team? And that was from her personal account.
This is what I
Yeah.
tell like, I personally think Instagram is a better version of LinkedIn because, like, all my friends who have fancy LinkedIn profiles, they're not on LinkedIn unless they are hunting for a new job or selling
Yeah.
something. They're just not on it.
Yes.
No reason to
Yeah.
be on it. But they're
Yeah.
all on Instagram or TikTok. Most of the immediate friends are probably on Instagram. And these are the same people who can make these purchase decisions, who work in mid to large companies with meaningful budget, who are interested in learning AI. Like, they're all on Instagram, even though they have nice, polished LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah, they're not hanging out on LinkedIn. That's like having a meeting in your calendar that you have to go to. It's like what you do after 5 p.m., right?
Cool. So you started making content. So can you talk about the mechanics of like how do you convert some of that attention to leads for your business and like scaling it up again to that six-figure number?
So when I decided to start showing up on socials, I also was like, I am going to lean into AI and automation. So I was kind of doing stuff for clients, but it was very much like this kind of doer role, if that makes sense. And I was like, no, I'm going to lean into like AI education, training, workshops, consulting. So that happened at the same time. And so what I did was I also started hosting like free online intro to AI workshops as like lead generation. I reached out to local business chambers as well, like partnered with them to come in and essentially just do that online training in person for their members. That was a big shift too, rather than just applying for contracts or whatever that needed someone to help them fix a system. It was like having these opportunities where people could get to know me and my teaching style and like workshops, because that was obviously part of what I wanted to do. So it was a good way to practice that delivery as well as having people come to me for these workshops.
And which one do you like better, or is it about even?
In terms of like
Like,
building and
yeah,
workshops and
using
yeah,
kind of getting your hands on the systems and helping
yeah.
build that out versus like training and education workshops.
Uh, I love teaching people. I just love getting people really excited about this stuff. I like building stuff in my own business. For me, I'm just like, this is like creativity. Like, that's how it feels like when I'm solving these problems. And then I get to show people what's possible. And yeah, I just love that. And I love just making it feel accessible and exciting and like not overwhelming.
And do you do consulting workshops remotely as well, or are they all in person? And I'm also curious from a teaching perspective, like what's been the biggest difference teaching people in person versus creating content as a way to educate people?
So I do most of my consulting training is actually remote, but I do like the local business chambers and people have flown me to like if they want me in person, but a lot of it is remote. In terms of online content versus in-person workshops, I would say that online, it's just like you can only give people so much, right? Like you can only give them a little snapshot or enough to hold their attention for 60 seconds or maybe YouTube. Whereas when you're in person, you get to look at like, okay, what are you using? Where are you struggling? That sort of thing. So you're able to tailor it to exactly what they need to.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear about one of the companies that you helped train. Like, what was the outcome? How did they even find you? What was the workshop like? And how did people walk away from that?
Like I mentioned before, one of the the largest mortgage broking aggregate in Australia, she just approached me via Instagram DM and was like, our team is using AI, but I know that we're not really using it very well. We would love for you to come and train the team. And so we had like a quick call so I could just kind of scope out what exactly they needed and what they were using already. And in that case, they were using ChatGPT, but like it was so siloed. So they didn't even know that they could build GPTs to share within the team. So that was part of what we did. I showed them how to create an email marketing GPT so that no matter who in the team was using it, that tone of voice was consistent. Another one for content creation. And I just spent 2 hours with them, just like upskilling the whole team on like, hey, did you know that ChatGPT can do these things? And that here's how that couldn't work in your business. Here's how I see you being able to use this. And then interestingly, at the end of last year, they actually lost their comms manager. She just moved on to another company. And because they had done that training, they had enough buffer. I don't know if they've recruited yet, but essentially they were like, okay, we've got these AI and systems in place. We can manage without her until we find the right fit.
Well,
So
that's
that was
great. It
pretty
was really
cool.
helpful for kind of that transition gap.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wouldn't necessarily say people are out of a job because of AI, but it allowed them to manage that load until they found that right person.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at a big company and the amount of tribal knowledge like stored in a person's head is
Yeah.
insane. And then
Yeah.
when you lose a person naturally, and like people switch jobs, people leave companies, most of it isn't documented literally in any shape or form. And even if it is, people can't find it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that idea that you had some of that tribal knowledge codified a little bit to be able to help the team so they're not completely lost when a key person moves on.
Yeah, exactly. And then someone can like pick up these systems, or in this case, it's just GPTs, but it allows that like to say stay consistent, and it's not just relying on that one person. And if they're away or if they leave, then that institutional knowledge just goes with them.
Mhm. And where companies are today, is it still at the let's build a GPT stage? Or do you think the industry is kind of advanced and we're at the let's learn Claude Code stage? Are we still far away from that?
I think it depends. Like, I think if you are a smaller kind of company, you can be a bit more agile. That if there is, like, I'm just imagining kind of working with, say, the university that I used to work at. It just change just takes so long. But if you're a smaller business, then yeah, I think that the uptake is obviously a lot higher already. But I do think there is still a gap. Most companies now are aware of like things like GPTs, or they might call them AI assistants, that sort of thing. And then they probably are seeing AI agents and Claude Code on things like TikTok, Instagram. They're like, we want that. That is often what happens. Like people will be like, I want that. Can you come and consult?
Shiny, complicated looking thing.
Yeah, but then in reality, it could just be that they just need to get a little bit more efficient in how they're currently using something like ChatGPT. Or I think there's going to be huge opportunity for things like Claude Cowork for businesses. Like, I think that's a really nice middle ground.
Have you started training any companies on Claude Cowork or the Claude ecosystem?
I've done some trainings on Claude. I've had an inquiry over the weekend. He was inquiring about Claude Code because he's seen what it can do, and seeing that Claude Cowork will be a really nice fit for their organization. I think it will do what they need it to do without getting lost in that technical barrier of the terminal.
Mhm. Yeah, so for anyone listening, I know Claude is the hottest tool to learn in 2026. Claude Cowork, Claude Code. Brooke knows everything Claude. So if you need help figuring this stuff out for your company and for your team, it sounds like Brooke will set you up and make sure you're taken care of. And I like that you're starting with Cowork. I get very excited by Claude Code, but like to your point, it's like most people should probably start with something like Claude Cowork. It looks familiar. It kind of looks like ChatGPT, but it has a
Yeah.
little bit more of the agent type of stuff with
Yeah.
MCP and like, on tasks.
Yeah. And that's not to say you like won't progress to Claude Code if
Mhm.
that's suitable. But I just think for a lot of businesses, especially if they want like team-wide adoption, then co-work is probably a really nice place to start. And then if you've got people in your team who maybe want to become those AI kind of operators, or that becomes their role, like they can solve specific problems in your business, then equip them with something like Claude Code. But that doesn't mean that everyone needs to be across Claude Code in your business. Whereas co-work, if everyone starts there, and then depending on use cases, people can branch off and access Claude Code.
That's a really good point. Like starting at a base middle ground that
Yeah.
everybody will find useful. And then the folks who are a bit more advanced or want to kind of pioneer more advanced use
Yeah.
cases in the company, you could have a separate Claude Code training session for those folks who want to dive a bit further. Are there any other kind of qualifying questions you ask when you interact with companies and try to design the ideal program for their team?
I always say like strategy first. So it's like really getting clear on like what the outcomes are. And a lot of it is like people just being like, okay, we're using ChatGPT, or maybe it is Claude or Gemini or whatever, but we know we're not using it to like its full capabilities. That is like the most common thing that people come with me. And so I'm like, okay, so how are you using it? What are you using it for now? Anything that you would like to use it for, but you haven't figured out how to, or it's not quite working the way that you want it to, that's always a good place to start. And then they'll always say, okay, well, talk me through your workflow. If they're like, oh, we use it for content creation. It's like, okay, how? Talk me through that step by step so then I can see some opportunities for them. It's just getting clear on like, okay, what's that end goal? Where are you right now? And how do we bridge that gap to where you want to be?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing in coaching and consulting I've definitely noticed. It's the clarity because like people are just inundated with all of these possibilities and it's overwhelming. Your
Yeah.
day-to-day job is all your normal business stuff. And then you see all of this on social media and you sense the gap. You're like, I should
Yeah.
be doing some of those
Yeah.
shiny things over there, but I have no idea where to start
No
and I
time.
feel left behind and like,
Yeah.
the headlines and the clickbait and you're like, it's like
Yeah.
not helping you feel
Yeah.
better. And so I really like that you focus on what is your goal here? Like just ignoring all the noise. Like let's just
Yeah.
focus on having a really clear sense of what you would ideally love to achieve. And then we can work backwards from like, okay, what tool set makes sense for your team, makes sense for your current ecosystem of tools
Yeah.
and other infrastructure as well, and then work from there. Are most
Yeah.
of your education engagements one time, or do you find that it takes several weeks or several months of regular sessions to actually affect that level of change in an organization?
Often people will kind of get me in and they'll be like, can you do a training session? That's like a really nice kind of base point, and everyone kind of can attend. Like, let's get everyone up to this level. And then depending on where they want to go to from there, yeah, then often leads into other training sessions. Because what I generally see is it will be something like, can you upskill us all in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever? And then they're like, okay, now how do we do automations? That's kind of the natural next step. And so it is almost like taking people on a bit of a journey. But I can say I haven't really like done any agent training with people. That's not to say I can't, but it hasn't been necessary. I think that a lot of
Mhm.
automations can just do what agents can do. I do think there's heaps of opportunity now teaching people about skills, Claude skills. And so that's, again, just a nice way that things are packaged.
Yeah, it makes
That
it
is like,
user-friendly, not scary. Because like, I when as soon as they say Claude Code, people are just check out the code.
it's the
No.
code. Yeah.
Seeing it like a
Yeah.
terminal or an editor, like, no, just hard.
Yes. I mean, that was me. I'm in my third week of learning Claude code, like, as in actually committing to building something in it every day.
So it's been really awesome, Brooke, having you here. I'd love to just wrap up the conversation and connect all the different themes we've talked about. So starting in the beginning, a lot of people still are just very skeptical of being able to go from basically zero to six figures in under a year. But many people are excited about AI. Maybe they're actively learning AI, but they don't really know how to get to where you are. Like you're living the dream for somebody who enjoys tinkering with this stuff, enjoys teaching people, and there's just incredible monetary opportunity and upside right now as well to
Yeah.
be the person that helps other people become more productive and enabled with AI. What would be your kind of last advice for folks who really want to be in your position, not sure where to start or just struggling with that first initial momentum, getting your first couple of clients and ramping up?
Yeah. So I think there's like probably two paths to this. So solve a problem in your own business. Well, that's great unless you don't have a business. Like you are a beginner at that. Start in like your role. Like see if there's any opportunities. Like is your company willing to upskill you in AI while you're still employed? And then you can kind of learn on the job. That would be amazing. And then, not everyone wants to own their own business. So that's a really nice pathway. Like you could become the AI lead or an AI operator for that company. If you are an employee, there's heaps of opportunities there because, like, I come into businesses and consult. So if you are within those businesses, you get to see firsthand what they're struggling with and just be like, hey, I've got some ideas. Like, here's what I've come up with. Or you don't have to know everything, just enough to propose a solution or ask for training as well. And then if the goal is to kind of go out on your own, document your learning on social media. Like, just be visible in some way. Particularly if you want to have an online business, you have to be visible online. People aren't going to magically find you, as much as we all wish that would happen. That's not how it works. And if you do have a local network, start there. That was like such a good opportunity for me to partner with the local business chamber. And, your first few workshops, you might do them for free. Like, it is goodwill, but you will get good connections. There will be people in that audience, small businesses, who are like, can you come in and build this solution for us? Or can you train our team on AI? Yeah. So that's another huge opportunity there.
It's honestly pretty insane, like, once you put yourself out there even just a little bit, whether it's local in your community or online on social media, opportunities will come your way. Like, so many people have heard of AI, they wanna learn this stuff, they wanna be more productive, and it's like the demand is there. They're just waiting for people who are actually able to help and, like, understand their business, where their team and employees are at, and, like, help educate them to where they wanna be. I encourage people to post on social media and get themselves out there, but I really liked your initial suggestion of, like, you don't have to make a drastic change and, like, quit your job and put yourself
Yeah.
under this incredible financial pressure, right? You can just leverage your current company to maybe find small problems, as you said, right? And just experiments with some spare time, how AI can be applied. I know one woman in our community, our school community, said she learned AI and got promoted. Like, this was not a long time. She just learned AI for a little bit, showed to her team, and got promoted, like,
Yeah.
basically. Add to that is, like, you can start teaching your colleagues, because you'll become that AI person in the team who knows how to set up ChatGPTs and stuff, and, like, people will be like, "Oh, yeah, just ask that person." And so you'll see if you like building more, if you like teaching more, if you like the problem-solving aspect, or all 3, and you can do that, again, while staying fully employed, and I think one of the advantages of that is you get exposed to real problems businesses have. I've been in a situation many of my startup friends have, where we're, like, not at a company and we're making up problems that don't exist.
Yeah.
Whereas you're at a company, and that's actually an amazing opportunity to just observe all the problems that do exist and identify the ones where AI could be applied to, like, make it a little better, improve a process, fix something, etc., and then
Yeah.
train other people. And I say train, but it's very informal. In your Slack or WebEx, you're like, "Hey, have you guys heard of Claude Cowork?"
Exactly, exactly. Like, as I said, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and that's okay, but there's still heaps of opportunity in the AI space. Yeah, go be that person in your company. And I'm pretty sure it'll take you on a pretty fun, exciting path if you just share that knowledge. Like, hey, I learned this thing today. Anyone else want to try it?
Yeah, that's what motivates me to keep going. I get messages all day long. It's like, wow, I can learn stuff. I can build stuff. It's just like unlocked a level of creativity I didn't know I enjoyed and, like,
Yeah.
thrived in.
Yeah.
And so,
Like that. I mean, that's my whole story, right? Like, to me, it feels like creativity when I'm creating stuff with AI or solving problems like that. I'm just in flow. And that is pretty cool that I get to call this my job now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And thousands of people are like, Brooke, help us.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
Well, thanks so much for joining my podcast. Where can folks find you, especially if they want help with training their own team?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, obviously on socials. So Instagram, it's at right_mode with a W. My website's rightmode.com. And I recently launched a podcast called Not Another AI Girl. So yeah, you can listen to that, and yeah, just slide into my DMs on Insta or TikTok, really. And I'm always up for a chat.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for coming.